I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to wake up this morning and hear from other Democrats and see on my post other Democrats who are just as furious and ready to friggin' jump ship as I am. I'm not buying into what they're selling, because after what we saw yesterday, I'm actually glad that they pulled that yesterday, because people like me who have been disillusioned by the Democratic Party for a long time got to see an evilness there, got to see a diabolical side of the Democratic Party who's basically saying, we want you to fail. We don't care if you fail. It's like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when they finally go back to see the Great Oz and they pull the curtain back, and it's just a little old man just standing there like that doesn't have a clue. I'm not going to be afraid to voice my opinion anymore. I'm done. I am done. I am done. And you're not going to bully me off my own page by thinking logical thoughts. I'm not going to be gaslit by my own party. Not one day more. Not one day more.
There he is, the boss dog. He's eyeballing, he wants to go back to the car. That's why he's looking backwards instead of forwards. Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. March 8th, 2025. Let's get into it. Boy, there's some really good stories you probably have heard nothing about. Let's get on those first. The first one was somebody put up a post that said Trump is proposing, is selling or giving Puerto Rico its independence. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why don't you annex Puerto Rico? Well, number one, that would be a Democrat state because they basically live off of the Democrat charity welfare, more or less. And don't get me wrong, there's hardworking people in Puerto Rico. I'm just saying that would be a 100% Democrat state. Number two, if you remember, that during the Republican convention, that comedian that got up and he talked about how Puerto Rico was a shithole, but the reason for that is because we made it that way. The U.S. government, I think we've done a lot of military practice there. We turned that island into a lot of portions of it. They're not livable. There's a lot of trash there. I don't know. I've never visited Puerto Rico, so I'm just telling you what I've heard. So don't take this as firsthand knowledge, but from what I understand, it's not there are people that have good lives there, but from what I understand, it's a pretty trashed area, and the United States did that to them. It's not their own fault. So that was an interesting tidbit. And then Elon Musk, you thought that U.S. aid was crazy, right? And how the Democrats were grifting just about everything. So they asked somebody asked him, they said, well, what about ActBlue? What do you think that's, because that's a Democrat PAC. By the way, from what I hear, a lot of them are resigning, hiring lawyers, getting ready for the Trump administration to come after them, because the grift there, from what I understand, has been just unbelievable. USAID was sending them funds, all your taxpayer dollars. Boy, I tell you, the Democrats were good at fleecing the government, weren't they? But Elon's comment was massive. That's all he said, just one word, massive. So if he's saying it's more massive than USAID, you think things are slowing down. No way, no how. And then Trump held a press conference talking about Ukraine. And of course, all over X right now, people are talking about how, we cut them off from weapons, and then of course the intel, which is probably just as important. And so anyway, but I wanted to point out to you, because the leftists are going crazy. The warmongering Democrats are going batshit crazy because they love war, man. They love killing people. They hate America. You know, Ukraine first, America last. That's a Democrat for you. You know, they just, I don't understand why they love killing people so much. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, so right now, up in the Kursk region, and the Russians could have done this at any time, but they turned that into a death trap for the Ukrainians, because what they were doing was using Kursk. How many times? Remember when Zelensky said he was going to trade Kursk for in a negotiation? Well, the Russians, they just let them have Kursk because it was a killing field. And in numbers, I've heard upwards of 60,000 Ukrainians have lost their lives for no reason. And so right now, since Trump, took away the HIMARS and the intel, the Russians, I think they just made a decision. Their death trap has gone on long enough. Let's just close it and kill everybody. And by the way, so anyway, they're closing it down. They've got them boxed in. I've heard various numbers from 2,000 to 6,000 to 10,000 that they've got them surrounded, and they're just going to obliterate them. And they offered them, from what I heard, I haven't seen anything firsthand on this, but they offered them to surrender. And the Ukrainians said no. So the Russians are just going to kill them all. So now you're up to 70,000 people lost their lives in the Kursk region. But what's been interesting is the reaction in the European Union and the leftists. It's driving the warmongering Democrats who want to kill every single Ukrainian. It's driving them crazy, man. You should be on X right now. They're like, this is all Trump's fault. We gave him 10,000 vehicles, you leftist lunatic Democrat. Trump's just trying to end the war. And by the way, when I see these posts, I always respond to them. I say, America first, man. Why do Democrats want to give all of our money to a country that's on the other side of the world? What's wrong with these people? Ask a Democrat. What happened to the people in North Carolina? What happened to the people in Maui? What happened to the people in Florida after the hurricane? Or the people in Tennessee, for that matter? FEMA. All the FEMA money was going to illegal aliens. Why can't we take care of Americans? Let Europe take on. Europe seems to want to take on Ukraine, or the burden of Ukraine. Let Europe do it. Wash their hands of the whole freaking thing. I don't see why Trump wants to play peacemaker. Just pull out, tell the Ukrainians, hey, it's your war now if you want it. Otherwise, if you want us to step in and help you with the peace deal, rather than taking the lead on that, well, we'll do what you ask. Let them do it. That's just my philosophy. So. But anyway, I always respond to these leftists. I say, America first, man. Why do you want to give everything to Ukraine? And I've said it various ways, so I just love tweaking them, because I just don't think they see how stupid they're being. It's kind of like giving everything to Israel. I'm against that too. America first. You could almost look at Israel. They're that aircraft carrier in the Middle East, if you want to look at it that way, but they're not our ally. They stole nuclear weapons technology from the United States. Many speculated they were involved in 9/11. And now, here's another example. Israel, Turkey, mainly Turkey, was responsible for the terrorists taking over Syria. So what's happening right now in Syria? Well, if you're not following along, they're killing everybody. Mainly Christians. Christians love to watch terrorists kill other Christians because they were all for these terrorists taking over Syria. Go to a church, man, and say, hey, are you worried about all the Christians dying in Syria? And they'll probably just look at you like, well, number one, they're probably not going to know what you're talking about. And number two, they're going, there's no Christian. Syria is a Muslim nation. There's no Christians there. No. And by the way, they're not being discriminating. They're killing anybody that doesn't align with their cause. So it's not just Christians. But anyway, what was ironic is all the people. If you recall, Russia has military bases in Syria. Still do. It was always questionable after these terrorists took over whether they were going to keep the bases there. Well, they did for now. And all these people, the refugees, are fleeing to the Russian bases. And so Russia is flying in as much aid as they can to the people. And So isn't it funny how we always paint Russia as the evil Satan? Putin is he's a Nazi dictator. Yeah, right. You know, here we got them taking care of, you know, where's the United States taking care of the people in Syria? Where's Israel taking care of the people of Syria? Are they going to invite them, especially the territories that Israel took over? They could say, come here and, you know, we'll give you security. I haven't heard anything about that. They may be doing it. I don't know. How about Turkey? Turkey could say, you know, we've taken these territories because they've taken parts of Syria. Let the refugees come into the area in Turkey so that they could provide security. No, from what I understand, it's only Russia that's providing security at this point. So let's, this was an interesting post. I just wanted to read this to you because since I was talking about Russia and Putin and Syria, this was what Putin had to say. Putin was allowed to speak on Croatia TV. I don't know what that is, Croatia. What did he say? He addressed the Europeans. Russia has never been and will never be your enemy. That's what he said to Europe. I thought that was an interesting comment. We do not want European raw minerals and wealth. We have our own raw minerals or materials. We absolutely do not need your raw minerals or materials. Russia is the richest country in the world in terms of raw materials. Why do you think Europe's been buying Russian natural gas or their oil? Because Russia, I mean, Europe doesn't have those things, right? And now since the sanctions were put on Russia, you know, that's another thing. Trump said he's going to levy more sanctions on Russia. I bet if I was a Russian, I would have been laughing my ass off. No, I think that's 5D chess. Because Russia, I mean, Trump had to appeal to the neocons to look like he was going to punish Russia in some way for not going to the peace table. But that's not, I mean, Trump has to know that that's not punishment. Because that we've got 100,000 sanctions on Russia as it is. There's nothing left to sanction unless we sanction the uranium. We're actually, did you know we're buying Russian uranium? It's about 5 or 10% from what I understand. So if we sanction the uranium, we're slitting our own throats. Because then we won't have, I mean, it's kind of like Europe. They slit their own throats when Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. And then they went along with it, said it was a good idea. Schultz in Germany. The Germans thought, well, you know, we can do without that Russian gas. From what I understand, gas prices in Europe right now are 10 times more expensive than they were when they were getting Russian gas. And boy, I tell you, I'm going off on tangents. Then you got that Ursula von der Leyen. God, she is one ugly woman. I mean, if I was married to her, I'd go out and slit my own throat, man. I mean, I'm dead serious. I mean, I'm looking at her going like, whoo, she looks like a witch. I mean, can you imagine? And she would probably just try to boss you around all the time. Just like being married to a Democrat. You know, because I know I was at one time. But anyway, so the Europeans are saying they're going to build up a new military with $800 billion. Can you imagine? They got people, you know, they got a bunch of illegal aliens that they're taking care of. They got pensions. They got people freezing to death in houses because they can't afford the gas prices. You know, their entire industrial base has gone to hell. And they're going to spend $800 billion on a new defense. You know, Daniel Davis Deep Dive. Definitely watch him on YouTube. And he was going on. He said, look, he says, right now, if I'm a Russian, you know, because Russians, let's finish up reading what Putin had to say, because this is their stance right now. But let's say that Europe does go into a war economy and generates their entire, you know, basically just impoverishes all their people, bankrupts their countries, and just to go to war with Russia. Well, if you're Russia, Russia's a lot more powerful right now than all of Europe. Europe's giving all their weapons to Ukraine. They got nothing left, man. Russia could go in there and just plow right over them. You say, well, what about nuclear weapons? And where would the United States be? If I were the United States, I'd say, well, you know, you just spent $800 billion, or you threatened the Russians, and you said you're going to spend $800 billion, and the Russians told you that ain't a good idea. I can't blame the Russians. That's would be my stance. But anyway, let's finish reading this. All right, so we did that pair. We do not want your land or your territory. Look at how wide Russia is on the map. Russia is twice the size of the whole of Europe. in one place. What would we need your land for, and what will we do with it? I mean, the European land is the most, think about it. They lived there for centuries. All the resources are gone on those lands. I mean, I imagine they got some nice cities and stuff, but they import most everything. Now, they did used to have manufacturing and stuff, but when you got hundreds of years of them mining and cutting down forests, and their resources are completely depleted. Whereas Russia, well, that's why they want to cannibalize Russia. So Putin's statement here, remember Russia, and that was another thing with the war. Remember when Russia was a gas station? What did he call it? Gas station with oil? And then they said they were cannibalizing washing machines because their military sucked so bad. And then there was they're using shovels to fight with. And now all of a sudden Russia's going to take all of Europe. Oh my God, these people are so freaking stupid, man. And the lefties and the Democrats believe that shit. And of course, once again, what do we want to take care of Russia? They've already dragged us in, and I say dragged us in, it was Democrats that sent us into war, 2 world wars that we didn't start. We didn't have anything to do, well, we had definitely something to do with Japan, but I mean, we didn't have anything to do with the wars in Europe. So anyway, let's keep reading. All right. Let's see, we got through that. Why do you think Russia is an enemy of Europe? What damage has Russia done to you? Think about it. Napoleon invaded Russia. Nazi Germany invaded Russia. I mean, there's been I think, didn't the Mongols way back in the time? I mean, they've been invaded I don't know how many times. I'd have to go back and ask Grok. By the way, that's another good thing. Grok is awesome. I've been asking Grok to write me some songs, and I'm playing with that right now. And it actually writes songs. I was like, Grok is awesome. And it's got a sense of humor, man. I swear, it'd be like on iRobot. Remember when he hit Sonny? You actually liked Sonny as the robot because, well, he was sentient in that movie. And anyway, I could see myself having a Sonny robot as a friend because Grok is really cool. I'm enjoying. I'm sorry, I'm off all over the place with the tangent here. Let's see. Why do you think, what damage has Russia done to you? Have we sold you gas and raw materials at lower prices than the prices at which your friends are currently selling you? It's talking about the United States. We're selling them liquefied natural gas at a high premium. Yes. Did Russia sacrifice 20 million people in World War II to get rid of the Nazis? Yes. Was Russia the first country to help Europe during the COVID pandemic? Yes. Did we help Europe when there was fires and natural disasters? Yes. What has Russia done to you that you hate it so much? Russia is not your enemy. Your real enemies are your leaders, those who lead you. A more correct statement could have never been made. And the part that I wanted to talk about was, well, they said 20 million. I thought it was more than that. And then Kelly just came out with a comment. I don't know if you saw it, but he said at Stalingrad that they lost, I don't know, he said 70,000 or it was some really low number. Hell no, man. I mean, they lost millions. I've done a video on the Battle of Stalingrad, and I mean, it was millions quick, So what the point of what I'm saying here is the Russians don't give up. They could lose 100 million people and they'd still be fighting. I don't think that the United States, if we lost 100 million people, that we would be fighting. Well, especially the Democrats. They don't give a shit. In fact, they'd defect to the enemy if they thought that the enemy was going to win. That's what a Democrat is. Anyway, so I just thought that was a good post. We did Elon Musk. This is interesting. This is Britt Hume. And this is, well, let me see where this article, this is from the Wall Street Journal. Okay, with 0 American lives lost. Now think about how callous this is. I want you to think about this. It's kind of like how politicians send your children off to war and they just don't, they think, oh, well, look at how many, we're doing good on the battlefield. We've only lost 100,000 troops. God dang it, if that's how you feel, get over there, get your butt over there and find out One more tangent. Boy, I tell you, these things pop into my head. There's a post going around that South Carolina just executed somebody by firing squad. So that drove the lefties freaking crazy. The Democrats are crying all over X that, oh my God, not death by firing squad. And of course, my response to them, I'm saying, can't we send Fauci to South Carolina? You know, only after he's convicted. You know, I don't want to, pretend that, obviously, that I would want him dead or anything. No. Only after he's been convicted in a court of law that sentences him to death. But that's not my call. And the same with Lindsey Graham. He's actually in the state. I said, well, maybe you guys should prosecute Lindsey Graham and think about that punishment. All right, so I'm sorry. Hopefully I can read this. The light's kind of bad. There we go. 0 American lives lost in battle and less than 375 spent, $75, I guess is what they're saying, spent per American based on a total of 120 billion in aid. Zelensky's, and that's based on 120. It's a lot more than that because they're not taking into account all the military equipment and stuff that we've given them. Population have helped America and its allies by destroying or disabling thousands of Russian aircraft and land-based vehicles, communication systems, and other equipment. Russia's military command, all these things are untrue, by the way, command structure, morale, and recruiting have been, sorry, it's hard to read, have been degraded. American defense contractors have tested new weapon systems in wartime conditions, and Ukrainian fighters have innovated in unforeseen ways. Our economy has benefited from, hang on, the dog's going crazy here, from Americans building building war material in American plants and sending them to Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky has thanked America many times for our support, and now it's time for America to thank him. Now, what he's implying here is that, that Ukraine is important to the United States, and somehow, if we don't support them, he's saying it's in our national interest to support Ukraine and kill them all, and kill as many Russians as we can. And by the way, the Russian military is not depleted. They got almost 2 million. Well, it's over 1 million for sure under arms right now. Their weapons manufacturing is on a wartime footing. Last I heard is that 30% of their GDP has gone into their war engine, which is we spend a lot more money, but our production's a lot less than what Russia's churning out. I mean, and now they've got more aircraft, more tanks, more guns, more artillery. And more new weapon systems, drone factories, everything is firing on all cylinders. And he's saying that that we anyway. Well, you heard what he said. Let's get one more here, and we'll watch this video. This is Viktor Orban on Kasuth Radio. If 26 European countries and the U.S. together couldn't defeat Russia in 3 years, what makes the remaining 26 think that they can now? Without the Americans. There's no rational basis for this war. Only enormous financial consequences for Europe. Let's watch that video.
Hogyha 3 éve zajlik egy háború, ahol az Ukrajnát egységesen támogatta eddig 26 európai állam, meg az Egyesült Államok, és így is az oroszok állnak nyerésre a frontvonalon. Most az amerikaiak kiszállnak, akkor a maradék 26 országnak mitől lesz több esélye arra, hogy sikerrel végigvigye ezt a háborút? Ez egy olyan kérdés, amire nincsen válasz. Tehát egész egyszerűen nincs észszerű alapja annak az álláspontnak, amit most a 26 európai tagállam magáévá tett, és azt gondolom, hogy nagyon súlyos pénzügyi következményeket is vállalt ezzel, mert ha azt mondod, hogy valaki folytassa a háborút, akkor azt valakinek finanszíroznia kell, pénzt kell adni. Az amerikaiak ebből kiszálltak. Most a gatyánk rám, tehát ha ezt végigviszik az európaiak, akkor az utolsó fillérünk is rámegy erre a háborúra.
All right, so that was Viktor Orban, but what he's saying there is, okay, we couldn't defeat them in 3 years with U.S. help. And by the way, and the reason, it's crazy. You got to watch the videos. All the European leaders are going around thumping their chests, talking about how they're going to war with Russia. And of course, Macron actually walked that back here recently. Anyway, if I get something else, let's see if we could keep going. Because my lighting's good today. Oh, this is This is the actual video. Okay, so here's Putin on the video. I read it to you. So now let's watch a Putin video. So this is President Putin one year ago. For 500 years, Western elites have been leeching off. Well, this is a different comment from him. Leeching off other nations. They tore apart the people of Africa, exploited Latin America and the countries of Asia. For centuries, they have grown accustomed to stuffing their bellies with human flesh and pockets with money. I think I played this video on another video, but let's watch it again. And if I think something else, we'll add to it. Peace out. Stay free.
В западных элитах очень сильно желание заморозить существующее положение, несправедливое положение вещей в международных делах. 500 лет они практически паразитировали на других народах. Они рвали на части несчастные народы Африки. Они эксплуатировали Латинскую Америку, эксплуатировали страны Азии. Они привыкли столетиями набивать брюхо человеческой плотью, а карманы деньгами. Но они должны понять, что бал вампиров заканчивается.
All right, let's get the dog walking on the video, because I had a couple other points to make. I had a post which was kind of viral for me, where I was pointing out, and I, to the best of my knowledge, is what I've heard, or it's in the back of my mind, is that Russia did not commit that much, because it's a special military operation. A lot of people think they're at war. But anyway, so they didn't commit a whole lot of troops to the Kursk operation. And yet they still killed, well, it's going to be 70,000 Ukrainians. So, but what I was saying from what I understand is they've been pumping a lot of material and a lot of troops into that area. And I think last I heard there was 100,000 in Belarus. There's an interview by Lukashenko. Maybe I'll play some of that. Mario Naval interviewed him. That's the president of Belarus, if you didn't know. Real good interview, man. You definitely should check it out. Go to Mario Naval's X channel, and maybe you can find that video.
The nationalist forces of Ukraine burned several dozen people alive in the House of Trade Unions. They were Russians, Russian-speaking people. They have always lived in Ukraine. Why did they burn these people alive? All this kept being ramped up. The Russian language was suppressed. Russian-speaking people, and there were millions of them in the West, were facing oppression. Ukraine started to oppress them. And I asked the question, imagine if in Mexico, in the north of Mexico, let's say, the Mexicans treated the citizens of the United States of America in a similar way. What would happen? Any U.S. administration, at the demand of the U.S. public, would sweep Mexico from the face of the earth into the Gulf or America, or the Gulf of Mexico. Right? Well, the public started to demand from Putin to defend Russian-speaking people in Ukraine who were being offended by the authorities. There are many other reasons Putin defended them. So what claims can you make against him? I say there were other reasons for this. The Russian authorities talk about them. Security guarantees for Russia from NATO in the USA. He publicly asked for guarantees. No such guarantees were given. So the situation developed in such a way that the West, to some extent, especially Western European countries, pushed the leadership of Ukraine towards this war. As for reasons, there will always be one. A reason was found. But the main thing, Musk is right to start this audit of the spending of U.S. funds. USAID was closed and so on. What were they doing? They funded coups in countries. more than 5 billion, and that what is known so far was sent to Ukraine in order to carry out the Maidan. For what? We experienced the same thing in 2020. The unrest in Belarus was financed from these sources. That's how it happened. That's why initially we took a friendly position in this conflict. I am often asked if I knew that this war would start in February 3 years ago. No, I didn't know. But if I had known, I would not have defended Ukraine then. Because at that moment, we were already at war with Ukraine.
I'll try to get a clip from it anyway, because it was very revealing. I mean, very frank conversation. Kind of reminded you like of a Tucker Carlson or a Joe Rogan type interview. And Lyshenko, you know, he's kind of guarded. These guys, I swear, some of these leaders are so smart. Unlike the European leaders, they're dumber than stones, man. But, you know, but where was I? Oh, I wanted to read this to you on that Russia. Well, anyway, what I was going to say was those troops could easily march on Kiev. And I could see that happening. Let's get it back up. That's enough of watching the dog for a minute. I could very easily see them, because you could end the war real quick. Just bring across a couple 100,000 troops, because I think they've got them. And just march right there, because there's no defenses. Ukraine has no defenses in that area. And, you know, they still got troops fighting along, what is that, 1,000-mile border with Russia. You know, so they can't pull those troops off of those lines to bring them back to defend. Now, they might do it, but then Russia's just going to advance right through the oblast and take all the, because they worked years on building those defenses. And that's why the Ukrainians are still fighting there, because they don't want to give up on all that hard work. It'll be kind of like you fixed up your house and somebody tells you, well, you know, why don't you sell your house? You're like, no, man, I don't want to go someplace else because I got my house just the way I want it, you know. But anyway, sorry I got off on a tangent. But let's read this to you. This is a real good post. It's by Maria, and I'm not going to try to spell the last name. You can look because I'll post them, the text as I always do. As the renowned Russian actor Vasily Lanovoy once recounted, during my visits to Europe, journalists, let's get the dog back on here. Oh, he's going around. Let's get back up. All right. During my visits here, journalists confronted me directly. Why do you continue commensurating your victory? We've long since put it behind us. I responded with a simple question. How many days did your nations withstand Hitler's assault? By the way, I think it's May 9th is Victory Day. And I'm hoping that Trump will be there, but it doesn't look like it. That wouldn't be appropriate if the war is still going on. But if we have peace, maybe that would be good, that he would be there. All right, so put it behind us. Responded with a simple question, how many days did your nations withstand Hitler's assault? Their silence was deafening. I continued, Poland fell in 28 days. Yet in that time span, Germany captured merely a few buildings in Stalingrad. Denmark surrendered after a single day. All of Europe collapsed within 3 months. Remember France? It just went right around those defenses. I can't remember what they called it, the Marriott line. I think that's what it was. Surrendered. Denmark surrendered after a single day. All of Europe collapsed at 3 fronts. It was our soldiers who ultimately liberated your continent at the staggering cost of 1 million Soviet lives sacrificed to free Europeans from fascism. Yet Europe has chosen amnesia. I don't know why he said 1 million. When attempts are made to silence Russian victory, erase it from your collective consciousness, or expunge it from historical records across generations and nations, we must remember the stark reality of resistance against Nazi Germany. Denmark, and then it lists the numbers here, and I thought this was very interesting. Denmark capitulated after merely 6 hours. Luxembourg fell within 1 day. Netherlands surrendered after 5 days. Yugoslavia collapsed after 11 days. Belgium withstood 18 days. Greece, Rhinesisted, S-I-S-T-E-D, for 28 days. Poland fought for 27 days. France endured 1 month and 12 days. Norway lasted 2 months and 1 day. Meanwhile, a single Soviet stronghold, Pavlov's house in Stalingrad, held firm for 58 days against relentless German assault. By the way, that was the 6th German army, the largest force ever assembled on the planet that they withstood. So just to put this in perspective, the Soviet Union persevered through 1,418 days of unimaginable hardship, 4 grueling years, ultimately concluding the war in Berlin itself, compelling Nazi Germany to an unconditional surrender. Russia resists, Russia defends, Russia fights. And boy, I thought that brought home my point, that Russians will continue to fight to the end, especially as they viewed NATO encroachment on Ukraine as an existential threat. Now that's the words coming out of Europe, by the way. Oh, Russia's an existential threat. Russia's not even on your continent, you stupid European idiots. Oh my God, they're so stupid. Oh, I'm sorry, I get off on the stupidity. I just can't stand watching those people. I mean, Stammer and, I know, I'm watching way too much news. Back off, man, back off. Sorry, man, every time I think the video is coming to an end, other stuff just pops into my head. I had a reply because somebody was asking whether, I thought that Al Green, the guy that at Trump's speech got up and shook his cane at Trump trying to make a political statement. And I think Johnson's taking him off of the committees now. He's being censured just a little bit, as he should have been, for making such a ruckus. Anyway, I said, they said, what do you think of him? I said, man, just like in Predator, that is one ugly mother effer. I can't wait to see if I get a response to that reply. Sometimes you make a reply and you're actually laughing when you're typing it. I guess I'm getting way too much into this social media thing. Another thing I wanted to point out, and Democrats are all for this. Musk has been pointing this out. We got, and I don't remember how many, I want to say 2 or maybe more, I think it's just 2 Americans on the space station that went up, and they were only supposed to be there for 8 days. Okay, 8 days. And for whatever reason, I guess the plans to bring them back down, I don't know what happened. I guess the rockets didn't work or something. I don't know the history on that. I haven't seen it. But anyway, Elon Musk said he could have gotten them out, I want to say like back in July. And because they didn't want it to look bad for the election, well, I guess it'd be Kamala Harris by that time, they told him, no, don't rescue them, because we don't want that coming out in the news cycle. Can you imagine? And, go to your Democrat neighbor. Because that's what Democrats are, man. They're all about power, okay? They would rather leave them guys. Now think about it. They're in zero gravity. Their muscles are atrophying. Do you know how difficult it is to go to the bathroom in zero gravity and then having to stay up there for, I don't even know how many months they've been up there. I want to say, well, I can't tell you. I know it's a long time, like 8 months, 9 months, something like that. I'm surprised they have the supplies that they need to survive this long. But I can't imagine leaving them up there for political reasons. But that's who a Democrat is. Your neighbor would just assume, if you're MAGA, they just assume see you suffer. Put you in a concentration camp, turn the key, and just leave you there. Because you're going against their power. That's what Democrats are all about. Like I said, there's 5 types of Democrats. I won't list them again. Your authoritarians, your meat puppets, so on and so forth. I got another video for you because I wanted to play this one. I put it in my. It's funny because I put these in my today's video notes, and this is Tulsi Gabbard. It's just on the same theme. Tulsi Gabbard reveals that the Biden administration knowingly let hundreds of illegals with ties to terrorist organizations like ISIS onto the streets of our country. And I got the video. But see, Democrats were trying to destroy the United States. And I keep telling you that on purpose. You got a neighbor, they hate you if they're a Democrat. They would want to see the United States destroyed so they can rebuild it in their Marxist communist fashion. But anyway, let's watch this video. Hopefully this won't be it because I got one more.
You were at the border yesterday, fabulous, yes, with the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense. Now, you revealed that the Biden administration, I didn't believe this headline, that they deported only 8 out of 100 illegals with ties to ISIS? That can't be. I mean, I actually can't even believe that's true. 8 out of 100?
I had the same doubts that you had when I got this information from our National Counterterrorism Center, because it is inconceivable to me to have a commander-in-chief and a president who would knowingly return those who are either known or suspected terrorists or those who had very close ties with known or suspected terrorists back onto our streets in their country. But unfortunately, it's exactly what happened. There were over 400 illegal immigrants who came from Central Asia into our country. Of those, there were hundreds who had either ties to terrorists or were terrorists themselves. As you said, the Biden administration arrested a bunch and then let them all go back into our country, other than 8. So this is where we are working very closely with the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, with our National Counterterrorism Center, to make sure that we find them, that we remove them, and that we have the vetting in place to take this action to remove those from our country immediately who pose a threat.
So, all right, there was that video. And then we got, well, now I'll save this one for a future video. This is getting back on the Putin theme. I think I've beat you up enough about Russia. All right. All right, let's get back going. 2 other things that popped in my head. There was somebody put up a post that, I don't know what it was in reference to, but they said that the U.S. government is basically the most corrupt government on the face of the planet. I agree with that, especially when the Democrats are in there. It's, I mean, the things that we're finding out under the Trump administration is unfreaking believable. You know, all the corruption and the grifting and and by the way, that's the song. It's going to be a grifting song if I get it done. I've already figured out how to blend the music with my lyrics, and but the problem is I don't get copyrighted because I'm using other people's music. But anyway, I don't really care. It's kind of like Weird Al. I don't need to make no money on it. If they tell me to take it down, I'll take it down. But the other post that I found interesting was Kash Patel, supposedly now, he wants to hire private security. You know, if you didn't know, he's the new FBI director. And he said because he doesn't trust the FBI agents to guard him, you know, that are around him. Now, if that's true, that's crazy, isn't it? That tells you how corrupt the FBI is, according to Kash Patel. I hope Trump gives him what he wants, if that's true, and gets him some private security. And I hope Trump has private security, too. I wouldn't trust the Secret Service. No way, no how. I mean, you know, and Elon, boy, I tell you, Elon better. They should just carry him around in a freaking plexiglass bubble. I mean, if there's anybody that has got more hatred than Trump, it'd be Elon Musk now. And think about it, he was the darling child of the left, you know, because he made electric cars, and of course the rocket program, which I'm not sure the Democrats really care about. But now he's the most hated man on the planet from the globalists and the Democrats. Oh my God, you should see the hate I see on X. All right, so but I just wanted to tell you that Kash Patel thing, and I already told you that I think that Russia is going to take those forces and march south once they're done mopping up those 10,000 soldiers in Kursk. Yeah, it seems kind of callous to just talk about it that way, doesn't it? You know, yeah, they're going to mop up the 10,000 soldiers, but I think the Russians, I honestly believe they gave them a chance to surrender. I mean, if they want to fight to the last person, that's their God-given right. I don't agree with it. I think they should have saved their lives and gone back and tried to help their country that's just going to be devastated rather than sacrifice themselves on the field of battle. But who am I?